What's up, everyone? Bales here with another one of our MLB DFS DraftKings Picks videos, this time for Wednesday, September 29th. Once again, similar to last night, we have another large 13-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Plenty of options to go over. A lot more pitching that I like, not just towards the top of this slate, because I feel like some of the lesser arms get better matchups. We'll go over the pitching, all the hitting stacks, home run call at the end of the pod. But just stick with us till then. If you do enjoy the content, please give us a thumbs up. Comment anything that you have, questions, concerns, anything at all in the comments. I will be answering throughout the day. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You can turn on our notifications, which means you get all of our videos sent to you via the little bell if you want to do that as well. If you want all of our free DFS content, I'll have the MLB breakdown for tonight. I will also be releasing some NFL stuff today. I know we already have some NFL stuff on the site, and more will come in the following days for this weekend. You can go ahead to dfskarma.com, find all of that. You can also find our core plays under the pricing tab, or if you don't want to just go to the site looking for it, you can click in the description below. There are the links to everything that you could need, including stuff like our projections, which Sam has done an outstanding job for on that end. I also do want a quick shout out Jock Market, our partners. Essentially, if you don't know what it is and you haven't been watching these videos that I talk about it most days, you kind of have the stock market meets fantasy sports. You will buy shares of players. You're not playing really against any other specific team or anything. You're just playing to pick the best players. How they do compared to the field is where they will get paid out. Also, obviously, you can sell them. Say you buy someone for $5 and they hit a first inning home run. You can sell them for more than the $5, make a profit. You don't need to wait all night and see what happens. So, pretty fun, unique way to play fantasy sports. Download their app, Jock Market, JOCKMKT. When you deposit, use promo code KARMA to get a 100% deposit bonus on up to $50. And then make sure you get in our Discord, which is 100% free as well, because we're giving out plays basically daily. We also have NFL plays 100% for free for Jock Market as well. But we can get down to the MLB slate tonight. A lot of ways to go here. I don't think there's one surefire way that you have to go. I do think your SP1 probably just lands on Max Scherzer. He's essentially the best healthy pitcher in the MLB right now. He gets a tougher matchup against the Padres, but he's played them in 2 of his last 6 games, I believe, and he's posted 39 plus fantasy points in each of those games. So I'm not worried about the matchup against San Diego. I think that Scherzer's the pretty clear-cut SP1 on this slate. And then you want to use guys like Carlos Rodon or even Garrett Cole if you want as kind of leverage plays in GPPs, because so much ownership should end up on Scherzer. Then I think in cash games, you probably are deciding between Alex Wood at 7,900, or if you need the savings, Taijuan Walker at 6,600. Wood gets a matchup against Arizona, who struggles on the road. Very good Vegas odds, and the price tag's just too low for his talent. And then Taijuan Walker gets an elite matchup against Miami. He obviously hasn't been throwing overly well in recent games, burned a lot of people for quite a few games in a row, but none of his stuff really looks that bad. His xFIP now sits around 4.5, which isn't necessarily good, but comparatively, he has decent strikeout stuff at 22.5%. Obviously, this is just solely a matchup play. If you're looking for who's better between him and Alex Wood, very clearly Alex Wood is the better pitcher. It's just, do you take the matchup against Miami with the lesser price tag versus obviously Wood is also in a good matchup. But you're going to have to pay $1,300 more. Outside of them, I do think that there's other pitchers that can be used. If you want to use someone like Aaron Nola or Luis Garcia up near the top, even Jose Barrios, I think they're all fine. Not necessarily my favorite options. I think Max Fried, Sonny Gray, and Nathan Eovaldi all in the mid 8K range. They all make sense. I think they're at least viable. And then if you want to drop all the way down, you can use someone like Michael Pineda or Casey Mize, either side of that game. Both offense struggling quite a bit. Neither pitcher's really that bad compared to where their price tags are at. They're just too cheap. So I do think that either one of them make plenty of sense on this slate, or you can use someone like Eliza Hernandez, Miles Mikolas, I guess, if you want. They aren't really my favorites or anything. Frankie Montas at 94. I would have to see. I guess Montas got up to 106 pitches in his last game. So Frankie Montas also in play at 94 against Seattle. A lot of pitching options though, and a lot of weird kind of cheaper ones that you don't necessarily want to play, but they're fine arms in relatively good matchups. If you have any questions about any pitchers that I didn't go over or I didn't outline enough or anything like that, please drop it in the comments. I'll answer those throughout the day. I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can go on this slate. In terms of stacks, it's very, very clear. The number one stack is going to be Boston. You're going to try to do whatever you can to get them in your lineup. They're by far the best. Then I would say second best, likely, probably the San Francisco Giants. I think you can probably make a case for the Los Angeles Dodgers, but I would need to see who their pitcher is and locked in for that. Outside of that, Cleveland looks relatively okay. I think you can also take a shot on a few offenses. Either side of the Texas Rangers, Los Angeles Angels game is completely fine. If you want Kansas City Royals and GPPs, Minnesota Twins in tournaments, I think they're all relatively okay. But this is kind of a slate where three offenses really stick out. That's the Boston Red Sox as clearly the one. And then 2 and 3 sit between the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers. There's not really any, I guess there's not really any stacks with like low Vegas totals that I really want to attack. I think if you want to take a shot on like the New York Mets, that's relatively okay. Their implied totals under 4.5. But that's probably about it. I don't know. If there's any stacks that you guys like, please comment them. I'm interested to see what everyone else is looking at. Also can give my opinion on anything you guys need. But moving to position by position, I think this is relatively interesting. If you want to spend up, I feel like there's plenty of options. Will Smith probably sticks out the most, followed by Buster Posey. I also have no issues whatsoever with guys like Sal Perez or Yasmani Grandal, but they're a little bit more expensive. In the mid tier at 42, you have Mitch Garver, who I'm completely fine with. I think you can also go a little bit lower than that, Christian Vasquez, assuming he's starting at 3,200. Or you can drop all the way down to my favorite punt is probably Roberto Perez, but all under 3,000. Roberto Perez, Jose Trevino, and Max Stassi all can be considered. At 4K as well, Omar Narvaez. So a lot of ways you can go at catcher tonight. I feel like Will Smith is the top spend up, and Roberto Perez is probably the top punt specifically for me, though, just depending on the type of way that you want to build your lineups. First base, Bobby Dahlbeck is still way too cheap, especially if he's hitting 6th in the order. He's 3,400, obviously gets matched up against a bad left-handed pitcher. So I feel like he's the top spend down. I don't really think you need to get cute and go elsewhere. If you want to spend a bit more, I think obviously Max Muncy's in play. If you want to go up and play someone against a tough pitcher that really not many people are going to use, so you get leverage, Jose Abreu is interesting. Freddie Freeman also interesting, but he's nearly 6,000 on the slate. Outside of that, I mean, you can always use someone like Paul Goldschmidt. I just feel like, to me, you're probably either going up to Max Muncy or just dropping down to Bobby Dahlbeck. And then the only other guy kind of in the middle of those that is relatively interesting in the mid 4.4s, I would say, is Nate Lowe. At second base, you still have a few guys underpriced. The two that really stick out, Tommy La Stella leading off for San Francisco against Merrill Kelly and a bad Arizona bullpen. And then a little bit below him, you have Luis Arraez, who's expected to lead off for Minnesota against Casey Mize. Jorge Polanco, I have no issues with. If you can get to Trey Turner, I think that he's a really, really good play tonight as well. And then if you need to just completely drop down, assuming Christian Arroyo is starting, he's only 2,600. Or you can go something super weird all the way at the minimum price. Owen Miller is 2K. So I think if you're kind of sticking in the mid-tier, you're probably choosing between Listella and Arraez. I think I favor Listella slightly. If you're moving up, you probably try to get to Trey Turner. And then if you drop down, Christian Arroyo is the top option. Moving to third base, it's a good spot for Luis Arraez where you can use... I guess you can use him at both positions is what I'm trying to say. That kind of slipped my mind there. Rafael Devers is priced up a little bit more, over 5K tonight, but still gets a plus matchup even though it's lefty-lefty. That doesn't really bother me all that much in this specific matchup because he should get plenty of time against Baltimore's bullpen. Chris Bryant's price tag is down a little bit to 4.9. I really like him against Merrill Kelly. Josh Donaldson, once again, I feel like can be used. Justin Turner is interesting because it's a direct pivot off of Devers, who should probably get a little more ownership, I would assume. I prefer the Red Sox third baseman to Turner, so that's probably where I would go, but I understand specifically in tournaments if you want to just move off potentially for lower ownership in Justin Turner, who comes with plenty of upside as well, even though he is expensive. If you need to save money here, I think the obvious option is probably Jack Mayfield, assuming he's hitting higher. I would assume that he hits fourth tonight, but he has to be hitting a little bit higher in the Los Angeles Angels lineup than 8th or 9th. And at 2,600, he definitely makes sense. Moving to shortstop, I think it feels relatively clear that you're probably trying to get Xander Bogaerts. He's just the top option. Even at 5,300, he's pretty clear-cut my favorite. I do think that there's other options that you can use. Jorge Polanco, like I said before, is basically a direct pivot. So is Brandon Crawford, who I really like. Crawford is probably my second favorite shortstop tonight. I do believe if you want to go someone like Tim Anderson, feel free. And then if you need to drop down just in other price ranges, some guys that I like, Ahmed Rosario at 4,200. Isaiah Kinner-Falefa against Jansen Junk, I don't really have any problems at 3,400. And then if you need to save quite a bit of money, Nick Gordon is 2,400 and obviously gets the matchup against Casey Mize tonight. So pretty much just Xander Bogaerts if you're spending up. And then honestly, if you need to save, I'd probably drop down to Nick Gordon, although Ahmed Rosario does stick out a little bit just in terms of the matchup and the upside that he possesses for 4,200. The outfield, I don't need to bore you with all the Boston guys. We know the Boston guys are the top on the slate. Any of them that are starting, it doesn't matter which ones they are. Outside of that, the San Francisco guys, I do think make sense, both at 4,200. You have Lamont Wade, and then you also have Mike Yastrzemski. If I'm choosing between the two, I guess it might depend on how you're making your lineups because Wade's hitting second, Yastrzemski's hitting sixth. So depending if you're using any other San Francisco guys, if you're solely using one of these two, I probably slightly lead Wade just for the chance that he could get an extra at bat. But I do like Yastrzemski's power against right-handed pitching, so I wouldn't really try to convince you one way or the other. I think they're both really good. For me, it would just be a very, very, very slight edge to Lamont Wade over Yastrzemski because of where he's hitting in the lineup. If you can spend up on someone like Mookie Betts, feel free, but that might be a little difficult, especially with all the Boston guys tonight. Chris Bryant, we already talked about. Byron Buxton is only 4,900, hitting near the top of Minnesota's lineup. I do like that. Max Kepler, under 4K. I also think that he's a very good option tonight. And then you just have some high upside guys. Franmil Reyes, I really like. Adalis Garcia, I think that he's 100% viable at 4,500 on the slate. So we really just have a lot of really good options in the outfield, which generally happens. I think if you absolutely need to save a ton of salary, one, you have Nick Gordon, who we already talked about. But two, Brandon Marsh does make sense. Harold Ramirez also for only 2,200 makes sense. So a lot of different ways you can go. Willie Calhoun at 2K, Phil Gosselin at 2,400. So I mean, we have a lot of outfields or a lot of outfield options tonight, which isn't surprising. It's the 13 games, so I do think that all of those plays are viable. If there's anyone that you like tonight that I haven't discussed, feel free to drop them in the comments. I will let you know my thoughts on any of them. For a home run call tonight, that's tough. There's a lot of good options that I don't necessarily know which way I want to go with this. I guess looking through the slate, is there anyone? I'm gonna go with Adolis Garcia. Junk does give up quite a few home runs, at least early in his career. Anyway, Adolis Garcia we know has plenty of power, so I will go with Adolis Garcia as my home run call tonight. We missed on Franmil Reyes yesterday, so let's get back on track. I believe should be back with a video for tomorrow's slate. Don't forget, dfskarma.com is where you can find all of our stuff. Join our free Discord. Pick up a core plays package. We're still killing MLB. I know Optimal hit once again last night. It hit the night before as well. And Ben has been killing NFL, so pick up an NFL package as well. MVP gets you all sports. Until then, good night or good luck, and hopefully you guys have a good night.